Honestly, after watching episode 2 of Windbreaker, the best comparison I honestly think is a mixture of course, the Tokyo Revengers feel, which apparently the mangaka of Windbreaker, big fan of Tokyo Revengers, so kind of making sense where a lot of the similarities come from. But also, I would add in like a Durarara. I always hate saying that anime's name, it's such a tongue twister. But like, the general vibe of this episode, for the most part, is like how the cast of that show just handles situations. And sometimes they throw hands, sometimes they get into big brawls. So it's like if you combine those two, you kind of get Windbreaker. And honestly, they literally have a character in this show who is pretty much Takemichi, but he's not the MC. So Sakura is our MC. He's cool, calm, and collected. He's a badass. And honestly, like I said in my first impressions last week, I love the fact that he's honestly just embarrassed by kindness because his whole life he's never really felt kindness because of just how he was born, right? So the idea that he, instead of being like this like tough guy wannabe who's just a douchebag all the time, or a really soft character who like rarely gets badass moments, we have a total one-man army who just is constantly like shooketh by the idea of a world. Like, he goes into the school expecting to throw hands, and yeah, there's one character, this lanky bastard who can punch through a desk, that he probably will throw hands with, and maybe throughout the school year he will as well. But the idea that people just naturally, every step of the way, like, it's breaking down your expectations of what a delinquent school would be, and how the general public would view delinquents. And the overall vibe, especially because, like, when you put, like, an almost Takemichi-style character, someone who wants to do what's right, but doesn't have the physical strength to really back it, but refuses to back down, I will admit, this guy's annoying. Like, he is over the top. But I think it's good to have a character like him in Windbreaker, especially given, you know, I think if we need some sort of reality check for Sakura. But I do admit, by the time the episode was over, he was a little much. The one thing I'll give Takemichi and Tokyo Revengers, as much as people call him a crybaby hero, you know, in general, I think he had a lot to cry about. This guy just seems more like a meme, but he's kind of like a mixture of like Deku meets Takemichi, because Deku always like had recordings of like all the heroes he loves. That's kind of what this guy's doing with all of the delinquents, but also he has like that Takemichi's kind of vibe going on with him. I think people might end up trying to call this a boring episode just because I know how the anime community is. If there isn't a big action piece, then in general, expectations and focus tends to deviate away. But as an anime only, there's a lot, because it actually felt like a balanced episode. Episode 1 threw you in, showed you that Cloverworks wanted to cook with this show. And this episode said, okay, sure, you might want to criticize, oh, there was like a 5v1 fight and we blinked and missed it. But I think that actually works because it shows from another character's perspective, what the hell did this guy do? I couldn't even keep up. It was over in an instant. We know we are going to see action when it's actually important. I think the fight that they set up at the end of this episode is going to get cut off because the teacher's going to walk in or something. But in general, there's a lot of hope I have for this one. This is like, it's so fun, and I hope it doesn't get slept on. Full live reaction, though, to episode 2 of Windbreaker over on my Patreon. If you want to see my full link of thoughts to this or any of these episodes, it's going to be over there if you're interested. So, we pretty much carry on with what we did at the end of last week, which was him pretty shocked because he walked into this thinking the general people not going to like him. The school, he has to punch his way to the top. And what he ended up getting was just absolute love and affection from the civilians because, like, he thinks, like, what's wrong with him? Like, his entire life has been more or less being treated like garbage. Like, oh, you dyed your hair this or that, you're wearing colored contacts, you're such, and just treating him like he's scum underneath their boots. And the idea that just simply walking back, all the people recognize, hey, not only do you wear the uniform that keeps us safe from all these other pieces of shit, you actually were one of the main people. And just hooking him up. Like, he can't even, like, if he denies bread, they give him a to-go bag. One guy wants to get him drunk out of his mind before the drinking age. Like, they love this school. And it's interesting because one of my favorite things I've seen so far out of these 2 episodes is how he handled a very normal criticism, which is a lot of these like so-called gangsters are all talk and no show. They wear the fancy clothes or they have the style, but they don't actually have anything to back it up. And here comes a guy with the price tag still on everything. And I was like, okay, I don't know where we're going with this. Either all talk, can't put it up, or he's actually just going to be a badass. And my assumption was most of the main characters were just going to naturally be badasses, just given last week. And we see basically a very similar situation to a character like Takemichi, would refuse to give up. Even if Takemichi gets beaten and bloodied and bruised, he won't give up. And basically, this is like if a character like Draken was the MC in Tokyo Revengers and we were following it from their perspective, because Sakura comes in, kicks these fools' asses, but immediately changes his tune. He's thinking, this is a kid who, you know, when push comes to shove, these types of people who are all Flash, they can't back it. And despite physically not being strong or talented enough for a fight like this, he was willing to get absolutely brutal for a woman in need. And that immediately gives him respect and changes his tune slightly. And those types of moments are really good for characterization. And I think the fact that it carries into the school portion is really cool, because the school looks like a mixture of apocalyptic meets just completely down bad. It's a cool design, but you do not look at that and say, damn, that's Harvard right there. But I guess for what we're building into, it probably is the Harvard of delinquents. The fact that they also do that similar bait and switch with expectations. We walk into the class, everyone looks like, okay, we got a couple of groups who are probably pretty close-knit, and our guy's just ready to throw hands. And immediately we go into a situation where it's like, oh, you were the main person who helped yesterday? Just almost immediate respect. Yes, we do end with big lanky bastard coming in saying, I'm gonna kill, Hulk Smash Edition. I have a feeling either this is gonna be the main rival or frenemy dynamic. I'm kind of siding on frenemy dynamic. They are probably gonna throw hands a lot, but also maybe not be complete assholes to each other. Time will tell. But either way, you expect one thing, and they do take a slight detour. And there is something about this that is just so fun. As someone who hasn't read the manga of Windbreaker, I know a lot of people like to meme the name Windbreaker because it's basically a fart joke, which I get it, it's funny. But in general, man, like this show is anything other than a joke. Like it has a very comfy vibe to it in general, but as we saw last week was very important, because if we didn't see that big action piece last week, you would be able to walk out of both of these episodes and say, okay, like they just cut away from the action. But no, they cut away from the action for a couple of reasons. One, to focus on the action that actually matters, and two, it actually works for character pieces. A character who just got introduced to Sakura blinks and 5 guys are down. What the hell just happened? It actually works for the character to be like, I don't know who this is, but I probably want to stick by him. I do think the new guy, Nirei, I think was the character's name, probably will get on my nerves, but in general, you probably do need a character like him, maybe just tone him down 30% to help keep a character like Sakura balanced. But in general, I really enjoyed this episode. It felt balanced. That's probably the best word to describe this episode. And in general, I'm very excited for episode 3. I don't think Windbreaker will be for everyone, but honestly, I really think the comparison of Durarara meets Tokyo Revengers is kind of what this episode gave me. And I think the idea of the cafe probably being the central little hub area where we hang out, chill out, relax. And honestly, it's a fun MC, badass MC with a twist you don't normally see in terms of his embarrassment, but actually packing a mean punch to back it. Let me know what you thought of episode 2. You're going to keep on watching Windbreaker? Let me know down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new rider. Of course, ring that bell so you can notify when I upload more. And like I mentioned, full live reactions over on my Patreon. And hey, while you're over there, I'll also give you a video shout out. So today we got Jamubu, Anne, Grave XXI, Bimaki Eve, Brittany Henquitz, and Todd A. Goldweight. So I appreciate the support, everyone. Please take care and have a good one.